so much for joining. Glad to have everyone here. We're talking about AutoTracks today. This is your automated campaign process. So I'm going to go ahead and log into our training website. It looks exactly like your website, so you're probably familiar. By the way, my name's Zach Harrison. I'm one of the training specialists here at CINC. A couple of you may have worked with me in the past. Glad to see some familiar names out here. All right. Keep in mind that you guys are able to chat into the meeting. So there is a chat option on the bottom of your screen. If you look down, everyone should have this little floating bar. You guys can use this little chat feature here and send a chat in to me, ask your questions. Happy to answer those as we go along. I promise I'll be looking at them. I may not answer it immediately, but I will definitely get to those questions as we go through. All right, so AutoTracks. To get started, you'll click on the automations window here. We call this the left-hand rail. So on that left-hand rail, you'll click automations, and you'll see AutoTracks is the first tab underneath your automation section. There are some other versions of automation. You've got behavior messaging, you've got CINC AI, but we're going to focus today just on AutoTracks. If you have any questions about behavioral messaging or CINC AI, feel free to use our Help Center. If you don't know how to get to the Help Center, or if you've never been to the Help Center, you can always go to the top of the page and click that Help button and click on CINC Academy. This is our interactive Help Center. So you guys can jump in there, view the Help Center, type in your questions, and we've got articles and videos, lots of things that are there to help you and coach you up. And if you do end up having to just ask a question to someone, you need a CINC employee to just kind of walk you through something, tech support is the best place to go. You can click on your initials, you can go to tech support, you can give them a call, get someone live on the phone, just make your lives a little bit easier. All right, so AutoTracks is going to open up this menu. We call it the AutoTracks dashboard. It just gives you a good look at what's going on with your AutoTracks currently. If you have any AutoTracks available and turned on already, then they will show up in this list. You can see the title of the AutoTrack, right? Appointment set to-dos. So when I set an appointment, now I have some to-dos that I have to take care of. This is something that can kind of walk me through those to-dos and make sure that I'm not forgetting anything. Anytime you're curious about what's going on, you can click on that title. So let's say I click on our sample AutoTrack. You'll see exactly what's in the AutoTrack here. What day it's sending out, what type of message you're sending, what time of day, and then of course, what is the actual subject and the body of the email or the text message that we're trying to send here. So keep in mind that you can use texting, you can use emailing, and you can use reminders, all as a part of your automation. So this AutoTrack can do a lot. It's very versatile. We're going to come back to the dashboard here in just a minute, and I'm going to go ahead and open up the brand new starting window where I click Start/Edit in AutoTrack in the top of the page. This will open the template builder, and your AutoTracks template builder is where you will stay until you've finished editing, adjusting your specific campaign. So step one, when you're using your AutoTracks template builder, is pick a template. We have a large list of templates that are available to you. So feel free to scroll around. They are organized into categories, and it tells you how many are in each category. So we have a general category, which is great for things like holidays. We have American holidays, we have Canadian holidays, and we have both of them in English and in Spanish. You'll notice that if you hover your mouse on any of the titles, it'll give you the full title here. So if I'm looking at CINC re-engagement, what is the final piece of it? It's for sphere of influence buyer. And I highly recommend that when you are all making these, that your titles are that specific. It is helpful to go ahead and see what exactly is this for, who is it for. It's nice to know whether it's texting or emailing or both. So if you're curious about what's inside these templates, you can click on that template box. And just like we saw before, it gives you that preview of which day, what type of message, what time frame, and what is the actual message itself. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom of this preview, you'll see that there is a browse more templates option, which closes this preview, or there's a copy this template option. Copying the template sends you to the next step where you are going to edit the template. Okay, so this is how we move on from step number one, selecting a template, is we make a copy of the template we want. So let's say I'm wanting to create an email campaign for all my new leads. Okay, remember, you can scroll through these and take a look at all of them. I'm thinking about making this email campaign for new leads. So I have to decide which type of campaign do I think I might want to turn on. We do have 3 different options here. So let's kind of digest what each option represents. The calendar is going to be based on the yearly calendar. Okay, so this is what we use for holidays, because we want our holidays to send on a very specific day of the year, right? We can also use calendars for birthdays. Birthdays have to be a very specific day of the year. So that is when we would use the calendar template. Okay, if you wanted to start from scratch, you choose the blank template. And the same thing that we would do is we would copy that template, right? So now I can make a custom calendar-based template. I also have a checklist template, and the checklist template is honestly just for you. It is so you can keep yourself in check, so you can have a to-do list, right? Maybe for a buyer after closing, what do I do for my buyers after I close? Let's make a list of it, and let me have a list automatically added to that lead, so I can come back in and I can start running through the list and make sure that I've covered all my bases and I'm leaving that client fulfilled, right? So this doesn't send out messages. It doesn't leave you reminders or anything. It is just a checklist. Now we have the day campaign. The day campaign is slightly different because it's based on when the campaign begins. Okay, day number 1 is the very first day that the campaign begins. So if I want to turn this on with my new leads, a new lead registers, today is day number 1. Okay, so that means tomorrow is day number 2. That means Friday would be day number 3, so on and so forth. And it's not based on the calendar, but it's based on when this whole thing starts. Okay, so this will be the option that we'll start with today to make emails for new leads, right? So let's say I wanted to start with my blank template. Remember, click on the box that holds the template. Down below the preview, you select copy this template. All right, we'll make our selection here. And now it pushes me over to step 2, where I'm editing this template. All right, so let's say I'm using an intro email, and that is the title of my AutoTrack, right? Very simple. I am going to gear this toward buyers or people who are selling, right? I'm going to leave it pretty open because I'm just introducing myself, or maybe I'm helping my team to introduce themselves. We're going to leave it pretty wide open in this scenario, okay? So if I had to, and I was making this only for sellers, I could remove the buyer and I could remove the recruit, which is for promoting your company if you're trying to recruit more agents. And I could leave it for just the sellers and the buyers who said that they own a home. So I'm kind of targeting them as a seller as well, right? So we can get as specific as we would like here, but a raw buyer lead will not get this intro email. Although in this scenario, we want that to happen. Pick your time frame. The only difference here is it stopping at 5 p.m. or is it stopping at 8 p.m.? 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. is the legal boundary for sending out automation. So I usually choose 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. just to give myself a little bit of additional options. And I do use and include Saturdays and Sundays. This just gives me another opportunity to touch the leads when they're not as busy. I'd say most people aren't working weekends, so I use it to my advantage. I also want to skip holidays in this scenario because no one needs an intro email on Christmas Day, right? I'll send them an intro tomorrow, right? So from here, we can start adding steps and adding additional days, right? So adding a step, when you click on that button, offers you an email option, a text option, and a reminder option. Obviously, we are picking email. This is going to help me now. I can automate this process. I can go ahead and say, welcome to my website, right? We could even say, specifically, who am I sending this to, right? Remember, anytime you're creating a message, whether it's a text or an email, you guys have dynamic tags that you can use. These are so important with AutoTracks, right? I'm going to be sending this out to hundreds, if not thousands of leads over the next year or years. So I have to be generic. I have to be open to saying whatever their first name is in my email. So hi, first name. That's how I make this a more personal message. So we're going to say, hi, first name. Thanks for coming to my website. Just wanted to quickly ask, right? I'm always here to answer questions. Blah, 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 whatever it is that you would like to say in this message, you type it in. And then we sign off, okay? If you're working as an independent agent, you can go ahead and fill in your direct contact information here. However, if I'm a part of a team or if I'm a broker and I'm using this template so all the people on my team can use this template, then I want to sign off with more dynamic tags, okay? I can automatically put in the agent's first name and I can put a space there and put the agent's last name. I would then tab down so I can put in my license number and I can put in my cell phone number. And then I can put in something like my website, right? So pretty simple, who I am. I'm a licensed agent. Here's my phone and here's the website that I'm referring to at this point. Right, so anyone could send this message. Could be me, could be another agent on my team, but it will always have the name of the lead and it will always have the name of the agent who's sending the message. Okay. Just to be sure everyone is aware, you can make that selection here if you want to send this to the lead. It is defaulted to go to the lead and it's defaulted to go from the buyer's agent. If we wanted it to be coming from the listing agent, if let's say this is a seller-based email, I can change that. Or it could come from anyone specifically. So this is often used, like let's say I'm making an email for my lender. I just want it to come from my lender. So I would scroll down to get my lender, Alex, and now it's coming from Alex, the lender, right? So we can get specific here. If for some reason let's say listing agent is the sender or the buyer's agent is the sender, and there is no agent assigned, it would move to the next agent. So let's say it says listing agent, but there is no listing agent. It would opt to send from the buyer's agent. Let's say there's no buyer's agent and there's nobody assigned to this lead, then it would send from whoever is the site owner. So usually it's the broker or whoever built this website with us. All right, so looking down at the bottom of this section, you can see that you've got an attach file option, which is great. You can attach a specific document, right? This is my first time buyer's guide. Hey, if you're a first time buyer, take a look at my buyer's guide. And now I can attach it. You can pull it from your library, which will pull from documents that are already added to the website, or you can pull it from your computer, which obviously just goes through your computer files. You also have a preview email button, which is great because sometimes it's nice to make sure that the preview is set properly. Anytime you're previewing, those dynamic tags are going to stay there. They're not going to automatically fill in until we actually send the email. So keep that in mind. Trust us that we will change those tags. The tags will automatically update. All right, last piece of this email. Let's set a schedule. Okay, we have two options. For the very first message, if you're sending it on day number 1, you have the option to send it immediately after the auto track is applied. Okay, so remember my game plan here is I get a new lead and then I turn on this email automatically. So if I want it to send right away, I can just have it send immediately. If, however, I want it to delay and look a little bit more personal, I can delay it by a few minutes, right? Let's say I delay it by 15 minutes. That means that I have a chance to call them. That means that if I'm running my AI, then Alex, the AI, has a chance to text them. And so we have some touch points already. And then if I need the email, if we can't get them on the phone or if they don't respond, now I've got my email sending on the other side of it. All right. If I didn't want to have it send immediately, or if I'm starting this a few days later, then I could set a specific time. Remember that you are bound to send it between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. So if you try to schedule it outside of those hours, you'll see the big red box until you pick a time that is representative of 8 to 8. Whether it's a.m. or p.m., still has to fit the mold, right? So let's say I do immediately, but I want to delay it those 20 minutes. Okay. Every time you are changing something here in an auto track, you have to click update. You must click update or else nothing is permanently changed. Okay, so this is your magic save button. Make sure we click that. And it takes us right back into it where I can start adding steps on to day 1 and I can start adding new days, right? So let's say I wanted to add a new day. Now it creates day number 2. It is day number 2 just because the previous day is day number 1. So it is the next day, but we will be able to edit the day. So let's do this. Let's add one more email here. And this one is going to be a, just checking in. And then we just say, hey, first name, wanted to check in on your home search. How's it going? And then I sign off with my dynamic tags, agent first name, agent last name, all my information, right? Dynamic tags are crucial. So here I am scheduling it for a specific time. Let's say I do something in the afternoon, do like a 5, 17, 18, right? Here's a quick tip for everyone. I really like making these times look organic. Okay, if I'm sending all my emails at 9 a.m. on the dot, how many people are going to look at that and think, oh, wow, they're really thinking of me right now? As opposed to seeing, oh, they send this at 9 o'clock every other day. This is obviously automated. Let me unsubscribe. Right? We want this to look organic, as organic as possible. So pick some random times, but think about when people are opening emails. A lot of people open emails first thing in the morning. A lot of people open emails after work hours. So ideally, we would be trying to send them first thing in the morning or after work hours. I also know some people who like to do the lunchtime email, which works just as well because a lot of people take a break for lunch and they go check their personal emails, right? But be strategic and make it look organic. That's what we want. So we are going to go ahead and hit our update button, save that second email. All right. I told you, though, we can change the day that I want this email to send. It doesn't have to send on the very next day. So let's click this black drop-down arrow next to day 2. Here is where I can click edit day. All right. When I edit the day, I can type in whatever day I want. Could be day 20, could be day 22, could be day 2256, right? you guys can run these campaigns for years, right? We have to be strategic if that's the case. I don't want to be just blowing people up constantly just for the fun of it, right? We need to be strategic on who gets the campaign and are they using the emails? Are they opening the emails? But regardless, I can get in here and change this to day 4, let's say. So when I submit, I have an email that goes out 20 minutes after my lead registers. And then 3 days later on day 4, I give them a check-in email in the evening, 5 p.m. Right? We can continue, add steps to day 4 or add an email to day 20, right? We can keep building this out, and it doesn't have to all be emails. It's a mix and match, right? Me personally, I use Alex. I use the AI texting feature. So I don't need text messages to go through this system. I use Alex as my texting and I use my AutoTrack as my emails. Okay. So remember, guys, if you have questions, you can ask them in the chat. I'm about to move away from this page, but I'm going to give you 10 seconds. If anyone wants to ask questions about this particular page, editing the template, send me a quick note. All right, we're moving on. Continue takes us into step 3. And I'm sure some people have already been asking this question. How do I know who gets this AutoTrack? And how do I make sure that I'm not overdoing it here? So selecting a trigger to start your AutoTrack is such a helpful feature. You can automatically turn this on at a variety of different points. Okay, let's kind of roll through them real quick. I can turn on the AutoTrack or start the AutoTrack with a new lead. I can turn on the AutoTrack with a label. I can turn it on with a pipeline stage. I can also turn it on for anyone who comes from a landing page. If I create landing pages and I want my clients to register from the landing page, when that happens, I can trigger this specific campaign. I also have the ability to use custom fields. I'm going to take a note of this. If I can get to custom fields, I totally will. My pen's not working. Here we go, custom fields. So if I can get to it in time, we'll talk custom fields. The idea is you can build a specific type of information point, meaning I want a field for birthdays, or I want a field for the home purchase date. So I can send them a yearly update saying that I'm so thankful that we purchased their home in the past. I can't believe that it's been another year, right? So when I create a custom field for something like birthday, I can use that birthday to trigger this campaign. So all 5 of these options are ways to start the campaign. Then you have an additional option, okay? The source is not a trigger. I know it's in this triggers section, but it's not a trigger all on its own. It's something that you can pair with another trigger. So let's say I wanted my new leads, right? I could select new leads and the source, meaning I only want new leads coming from Zillow to get this particular template, right? So you can select more than one, could be Zillow, could be everyone from Google as well, right? Or everyone from my open house, right? We can turn on the template only for those specific sources, but it has to work with one of these other 5 options, okay? This is not a trigger on its own. So use them together or leave your sources open. You'll notice that I cannot select the new lead box right now, and that is because I have to allow permissions. The permission has to be selected for the entire team to access the template. So all my team members have to be able to use this template if I want the new leads to be turned on for this campaign. All right, the reasoning here is that a new lead will come to the website and this will activate before an agent gets assigned to the lead. So I can't make a distinction, only my new leads or only Alex's new leads, right? I can't be that distinctive because the website hasn't assigned an agent yet when the new lead comes into the website. So we have to be very open with the rest of the team saying, hey guys, when a new lead comes to the website, we are sending them this email, right? It is just a factual point here. If that's not the scenario that you want, or someone on the team is not happy with that email, what you can do is say, okay, that's fine. Instead, I'll use this on my own, right? I don't want the team to use my template, so I would remove the permission, and then I can choose something else. At this point, what I would likely do is I would say my pipeline status attempted contact. Once I attempt contact with that lead, then my AutoTrack will begin, right? So making a call from the app or something like that to automatically turn on this campaign. That's one of my options here. All right, I am going to say the whole team wants this campaign. So I turn on the permission and then I turn it on for my new leads. All right. Now I can make a decision. What trigger should stop the AutoTrack from sending? Okay, these are just for new leads. And if I make contact with that lead, I need this to stop sending. So at this point, I would like for my pipeline contacted to be a stopping trigger. If my lead reaches the contacted pipeline, it automatically turns itself off. Right? This helps me to not overdo this communication. I don't want to send out emails to someone who's already talked to me. At least not these emails, maybe other emails, but not these. Okay. I also have this option when the lead replies or reaches out. It shows you in this little pop-up bubble. This includes a lead replying to an email in this AutoTrack. So if they reply to any of my AutoTrack emails, it turns off. And then it says a lead sending an incoming text to a CINC number. So if my lead texts my CINC number, it turns off the campaign. This includes Alex, your AI. So if you're using AI and the lead replies to AI, it will turn off the AutoTrack. And so we're not overdoing the communication for that lead, right? We also have a label menu here. If you want to have a stopping label, you can build that label in, right? Something like not interested, or something like do not contact, right? That would be a really good label to have as a stopping point for my AutoTrack. So I have 3 ways to stop the campaign, and I have 1 way to start the campaign currently. Right? You can always choose multiple starting points and multiple stopping points. Now, what do I do when the AutoTrack completes? Right? When the AutoTrack is completely done, everything's gone through, we've sent all the messages. That's what that means. Every single message has been sent. What do I do now? At this point, I'm not going to take any action. I don't have anything set up yet. However, I could always say if day 1 sends and day 4 sends, I could automatically start another AutoTrack. We could build an additional campaign, something that maybe goes for the next 3 months. And I can tag it at the end of this campaign. So you'll see when you click this option, it shows all of the live campaigns that are up and running, right? So maybe I put them on my buyer nurture, uncontacted, right? This is a great one because it'll keep sending them emails and it'll keep sending them text messages for the next 30 days. So maybe that's what I want, right? After 4 days of emails and no reply, now I have 30 days of text and emails until there's a reply. okay? You also have this option to automatically restart the AutoTrack. That puts the AutoTrack on a loop. At the end of the campaign, it starts over. It goes back to day one, right? So in this scenario, day 1, 2, 3, 4, after it sends the email on day 4, back to day 1, okay? And so day 4 to day 1, over and over and over until something stops the AutoTrack, right? We also have this option here to apply a label. There's sometimes where after my lead doesn't respond, I want a label that says no reply. Or maybe I have a label that says cold. So it shows me that the lead's starting to get cold. They're not responding to any of my messages. Now I have to start thinking a little more strategically about how I can maybe get this lead on the phone or get them to reply to some of my messages, right? Last piece here, we've already talked about what this permissions button does. It turns it on for the whole team, right? So the trigger will happen for everyone, regardless of the trigger, but the whole team uses the campaign. I can give people the ability to own the AutoTrack, right? I could make someone the actual owner. I could also give them the ability to edit the AutoTrack. That means that they can come in here and they can change the wording and they can add more details and they can add additional steps, right? But the default is for people to be able to copy my template. So if someone says, hey, I really like your template, but I would change the wording, they can make a copy and they can go do it themselves, right? Remember, that only works if we're not using new lead, because you can't customize the new lead one. It's got to be for everybody. But if I had another idea where maybe I apply a label or I mark them attempted contact, then anyone could use the campaign and they can make it happen on their own. They could do their own custom language at that point after they copy my template. So when we save our settings, we've finished the majority of the work for this AutoTrack, okay? You can see it gives you a rundown of all your selections at this point. Everyone is a lead type for my AutoTrack. I'm not picky about who or what type of lead. My communication is 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and I included the weekends. My start trigger is the new lead being created on my website. The stop triggers are the do not contact label, lead going to the pipeline contacted, or a lead that replies to some of the information, whether it's an email or it's a text. Once the AutoTrack is completed, it'll start my buyer nurture uncontacted campaign. And while it's not editable by any of my team members, it is public so they can see it and they can copy it, right? It is helpful to make sure that everything here saves properly. I know that there are a couple times here and there where the messages don't save, or rather the settings don't save properly. If that's the case, you'll just want to go back and adjust one more time so that you can kind of resave all the data. You can still go in and proofread all your messages by clicking on your subject. And then of course, when we're done here, we're going to click save and exit. When I click save and exit, it asks me if I'm ready to publish the AutoTrack. This is meaning it's turning it on. It'll be live the moment I click publish, right? And actually, don't take that verbatim. It'll be live a few minutes after I click publish. There have been times where I try to move too quickly and the AutoTrack hasn't finished updating. So when you click publish, yes, of course. When you click publish, it'll show as an active campaign. If you click exit wizard or make another AutoTrack, your AutoTrack will be paused. So like these here are paused as opposed to the ones that are actively running, right? So if we scroll down to my intro email, you can see it's currently paused. If I wanted to activate it from here, I can turn it on. I can say, let's activate it. or I could disable it, or I could delete it. And of course, any of these active ones you can pause at any time from here as well. Right, so 4 steps to get things done. A little bit to remember, but I think once you all have a chance to go through some of those motions, it'll be really quick for you to be able to set up your own campaigns and be pretty strategic about when does it actually send and who does it actually send to, right? So a couple of things before we break away from this page. I wanted to show you guys that there is a quick edit button here. Any of these campaigns that are already set and on this dashboard, there is a floating pencil, and you can see that pencil moves around with my mouse. So if I want to edit my intro email, I can just click that pencil button and it takes me right back into editing the template. Okay. So now I can go through the steps. I can adjust my words. I can add more days. I can continue to the next step where I can adjust my start trigger. I can adjust my stop triggers. Can adjust my completed options. We can adjust the permissions. I can give ownership to someone, right? So if I wanted the pond to have ownership of my campaign, I'm going to say, hey, look, you are now the sole owner of this AutoTrack. It's yours. You can take over it. And then, of course, we'll save our settings. We can check in on everything that's here, reread, and then we save and exit. And you do want to publish the AutoTrack after you've made edits because it will be paused. You cannot edit an active campaign. It always has to pause before you can start making edits. So make sure you push publish at this point and it'll go back to being activated. All right. So I'm going to do one quick thing. I want to open up one of our calendar templates and show everyone a couple of differences within the calendar templates. So let's go back to that start/edit button. And let's do our CINC holidays. We're choosing the American version as opposed to the Canadian version, and I'm choosing English as opposed to Spanish. While I understand Spanish a little, we're going to rock the English version today. We're going to go ahead and copy this template. So now I have my own editable copy. And so again, we can kind of change the name, right? Zach's holidays. We can set it for specific people. And now rather than selecting what time of day, we're selecting what year is this meant to be sent on. I can also decide, is this going to recur ever? Do I want it to repeat every year? And if so, how many years do I want it to repeat? We have it up to 4 years. After 4 years, it's honestly a good idea to edit these messages just a little bit so you're not sending out the same thing year after year after year. Okay, so that's one difference, is that you'll have the year to select and whether it recurs or not. You'll also see, what's our next holiday? Valentine's Day. You'll also see that in these emails, at the bottom of the email, it has a different type of schedule. Rather than day 1, day 2, day 3, we're going to actually pick a day of the year. All of the standard holidays are listed here, which is really helpful because it automatically sends on that day, because sometimes the holiday lands on a different day of the year. And you can choose between American and Canadian holidays from this little drop-down menu, right? If I wanted it to go on a custom date, I can always choose my custom date, and it has to be something that's on the calendar. But let's say I want this to send on February 13th instead of 14th. We can do that. If I would rather send it on a custom field time frame, I can use that custom field like birthday or purchase date, and that can be the day that it actually sends out. Okay, again, I'm going to try to get to custom fields in just a second. So let's say Valentine's Day. You even have the ability to send it days before the selected day. So if I wanted to send them a happy Valentine's Day email the day before, I can just delay it, right? You type in one day before at 8 a.m. or whenever we want it, right? 9:19 a.m., one day before the selected day. Or you can do a day after the selected day, right? You've got plenty of options here. So now that I've made some changes, again, we have to click our update button, but update saves everything that we need, right? So now you can see one day after Valentine's Day, 9:19 a.m. All right. So those are the big differences with calendar. And the ability to use custom fields, that's honestly a big win, because now you can start creating those birthday campaigns and things like that. So I would go ahead and go through and continue to the next step and do everything the same. It always looks the same here on step 3. The only difference is that there is no option. When the AutoTrack completes, we're not doing anything. It's recurring for 4 years, so it's already repeating. That's our option. But everything else is the same: starting, stopping, permissions. Once you're done, you click Save Settings. And then, of course, you'll want to finalize or save and exit. And then you'll publish this AutoTrack. Okay. So let's talk quickly about 2 things. 1, custom fields. I want everyone to see how that works. 2, labels. I know that labels are something that we've talked a lot about, using labels to trigger the AutoTrack, using labels to stop the AutoTrack. So now we need to know how to make some custom labels. So let's do the custom fields first. What you'll be able to do is open the settings button. And from settings, you can open a custom fields window. Okay. So you can see how many custom fields we already have, but what you'll usually see is just a blank page that has an add new field option, right? So when I want to add someone's birthday, I now have to decide which type of information am I collecting. Generally speaking, for a birthday, it's a date. So I would select a date option and I would select add field. Maybe I wanted to have something like number of children, because a lot of people have several kids. So at this point, I could take a number, right? So number of children, add the number, and I would add the field. Maybe we say name of child number 1, and then I can put in the text information. I can do the same thing, name of child number 2, and I would have text information, and I can add these fields. So these are all things that I can put onto a lead's profile. And what I mean there is, now when we're adding all these fields, if I go to one of my leads and I look at their info tab, at the very bottom of the info, you're going to see a custom fields menu. And this way I can go in and I can put a birthday down for Krista. Her birthday is on the 28th, right? So now she's going to get an email on her birthday. So very quick, right? Custom fields, all you have to do is settings, custom fields, build out that custom field, and then you use the lead's info to create that actual field. Ideally, if you want this to be an AutoTrack, you would make the AutoTrack after the custom field, and then start putting in the information once the AutoTrack has been created. All right, last piece for right now, labels. How do we make custom labels? This is a permission. So if you're not a site owner and you're not a broker level user, you may have to ask for permission to do this. Ask your site owner for permission. If your site owner needs to give it to you but doesn't know how to give you labels, they can open up the agents tab. And every agent here will have a permissions button. And in those permissions, we give you permission to edit labels, right? Now that I see it and think about it, it's also a permission to use AutoTracks. So make sure that you have permission to use AutoTracks as well. Okay. Once you have permissions on your leads menu, you'll be able to open up the labels menu. At the very top of the labels menu, there's a manage labels section. And this is where you can start adding your own custom labels. You can just go create new label in the top right corner. And that gives you the ability to put a name for the label, and it allows you to pick a color for that label. So if I want something that stands out, we can pick a bright color. Okay, you have to click the create button at this point, and it will add it to this group. You'll also notice that there are lots of different groups that are now added here, like an automation webinar labels category, where I have my birthday auto track, checklist auto track, calendar auto track, sequence auto track, right? All of these are now used with my auto track campaigns. So if you're looking to add a group of labels, you can always come in here and add your own custom group. I could have something like Saks labels, and I can create my own group of labels. If someone created a group and they don't like the group, you can use this little arrow and you can trash that group pretty easily, just to get them out of the way. Right? But now that we've built out some labels, I can use them as triggers. And I just go on to my lead and I apply that auto track to them, right? So the birthday auto track should turn on once I apply the label to Kevin, right? Okay. Troopers, everyone here is a trooper. That was a lot of information to swallow all at one time. So what I'll do is hang out here for, let's say, 5 more minutes. And if anyone has questions, please chat me through the Zoom meeting, right? Remember, there's a chat feature that you guys can use. I'm gonna go ahead and pause here. If you are not going to be asking questions, you can feel free to leave, or you can hang out and see if anyone does ask questions. Usually I get some pretty good questions here. But that's everything for today. I appreciate everyone being here. Like I said, we'll have 5 minutes for questions. Type those up, send them to me in the chat, and I will take a minute to answer whatever we have.